In the quiet heart of Umudike, where the winds tell stories and the trees remember secrets, there lived a girl whose name shook the roots of her village. Her name was Nwakaego. Beautiful, bold, and born with fire in her spirit. But what happens when the fire turns on the one who gave her life? She beats her mother over and over, and her mother, with blood in her mouth and tears in her soul, cursed her own child with the last breath she had. You will know no peace. You will suffer. You will destroy everything you love. Years passed. The mother was buried, but the curse lived on. Hey lovelies, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel at African Storytales by Ellie. Turn on your notification and stay tuned as we dive deeper into the most intriguing parts of this story you don't want to miss. Thank you. In the quiet village of Umudike, where red dust rose with every passing step and goats bleated at every passing cat, lived a young girl named Wanku. She was a joy to behold. With skin color like that of a ripe kernels and eyes that sparkles like the evening stars. Her laughter was like the bubbling of a stream, and her feet were always swift, fetching water, chasing grasshoppers, or singing beside her mother at the fireside. Her mother, Mama Nwakaego, was a kind, patient woman, known for her delicate cooking and generous heart. She was a widow who raised her only child with quiet dignity. Every morning, the two of them could be seen walking to the farm, Nwakaego carrying a smaller hoe behind her mother, chatting away with the innocence of youth. Mama, when I grow up, will you still let me sleep in your room? Nwakaego once asked, keeping over a falling tree root. Her mother laughed softly. No, my daughter, you will marry a good man and have children of your own. I don't want to marry, she pouted. I want to stay with you forever. Mama Nwakaego smiled and patted her head. Love is a beautiful thing, Nwakaego. You will understand one day. And for many years, all was well. The villagers admired their bond. See as Nwakaego dey follow her mama like cloth follow body, said an old woman with a nosy neighbor who sold ogiri at the market. Some children don't even greet their mothers. This one they carry her mama load even with pride. But not all admired them out of pure hearts. Across the narrow paths in the compound cluttered with broken calabashes and noisy children, lived Mami Ijeoma, a woman with a tongue sharper than a razor blade and a heart full of envy. Her own children were wild and disrespectful, often fighting in public and mocking elders. She watched Nwakaego's obedience with growing bitterness. One day, she muttered to herself, that pikin go change. The cock had barely crowed a third time when the morning began to stir in Umudike. Smoke coiled gently from kitchen hots, mixing with the scent of burning firewood and grounded pepper. Mothers called to their children. Birds chirped high in the orange trees. But deep in her compound, Mami Ijeoma sat before a worn wooden table, grinding her bitterness into every motion as she pounded ogbono seeds. Her lips moved slowly as she spoke to the empty air. You dey show off because your daughter dey greet you, abi? Because she dey follow you like fly wey follow wound. No wahala, we go see. She spat to the side and stood, wiping her hands on her wrapper. Her eyes, dark and beady, scanned the compound. One of her sons, Ejike, was lying in the dust, shirtless, chewing a piece of dry bread. Lazy boy, today no be market day? She asked. Ejike grunted but didn't move. Mami Ijeoma hissed. Even Nwakaego wey be small girl dey help her mama carry basket go farm. Tfiakwa, her bitterness has eaten deep like rust on old iron. She remembered how years ago she and Mama Nwakaego were close friends until fate drew a line between them. While one lost her husband and gained a respectful child, the other kept her husband but bettered rascals. She tied her headscarf tighter and walked hastily down the narrow bush path to the edge of the village, where the trees grew thicker. There, hidden behind a thick grove of upo leaves, lived Dibia Uku, the old herbalist and whisperer of dark secrets. His hut was a dark circular space with feathers, bones, and clay pots hanging from the ceiling. The air smelt of bitter leaves and dried blood. As she approached, a raven croaked and flew past her head. "Who is there?" came the voice from inside, deep and raspy. "It's me, Mami Joma," she said, kneeling outside the threshold. Dibia Uku came out, a thin old man with shock markings on his face and eyes that never blinked. "What do you seek?" he asked. She bowed her head. "I want her daughter to change. Let her turn against her mother. Let her cause her pain. Make her suffer." The Dibia nodded slowly. "It will cost you." "I'm ready." He handed her a black powder in a folded leaf. "Scatter this at their doorstep. As the cock crows tomorrow, her heart will begin to rot. She will no longer love her mother, only rage." Mami Joma collected the charm, her heart beating faster than a masquerade drum. That night, as moonlight danced across the village roof, she crept to Mama Nwakego's compound and sprinkled the powder beneath their threshold. She whispered curses between clenched teeth and disappeared into the night. The next morning, something shifted in Nwakaego. "Mama, why are you talking like a fool?" she snapped as her mother reminded her to fetch water. Mama Nwakaego blinked. "Nwam, what did you just say now? You heard me. Always complaining. Can't you leave me alone for once?" The pot fell from her mother's hand, shattering on the dusty ground. From the shadows, Mami Joma watched with a wicked smile. "It don't start," she whispered. Days turned to weeks, and Nwakego's sweetness began to soar like leftover okwa left under the sun. The girl who once ran to hug her mother after farm work now hissed and rolled her eyes at every correction. Her laughter was gone, replaced by cold silence or sudden outburst of rage. One morning, as the villagers woke to the cock crow of the rooster, Mama Nwakeego called out gently from the kitchen hut, "Nwakeego, my daughter, please help me pick some firewood behind the compound before you go to the stream." From her mat, Nwakeego turned her face to the wall. "I'm not your slave." Mama Nwakeego paused, unsure she heard right. "My daughter, I said I'm not your slave. Can't you carry firewood yourself? Must I do everything?" The tone of her voice, the words, everything stung. Mama Nwakeego blinked slowly. "Nwakeego, are you alright?" "I am tired of your voice," the girl shouted, standing up and storming out, wrapper dragging behind her. The neighbors began to notice. Whispers filled the air like harmattan dust. "Did you see the way Nwakeego pushed her mother the other day?" said Mamude as she plucked ugu by the roadside. "I nearly dropped my basket. She's no longer the same child though," replied old Nana. "Even her eyes has changed. At first, Mama Nwakeego tried to explain it away. She's growing," she told herself. "Maybe it's adolescence. She will come back to her senses." But deep inside, her heart ached. The change was too sharp, too sudden. One evening, she confronted her daughter after Nwakeego insulted her in front of the neighbors. "My child, what have I done to you?" Why do you now hate me? Nwakaego scoffed. You're always talking. Leave me alone, woman. That night, Mama Nwakaego cried in silence. Her tears were soft, but the walls of her mud hut hurt them. She had no husband to run to, no siblings to confide in. Only her clay lamp and the crucifix on her wall kept her company. But the village saw it all. They saw the way she was slapped one day at the market when she tried to stop Nwakaego from shouting at a palm wine tapper. They saw the way Nwakaego threw hot ogi water into her mother's eye during an argument. She's possessed. Some villagers said, no, it's stubbornness. She needs the cane, others insisted. But Mama Nwakaego knew somehow it was beyond stubbornness. Then one night, after another quarrel where Nwakaego broke her mother's calabash with a kick, Mama Nwakaego slumped into her chair, eyes bloodshot with pain. She lifted her hand to the sky and said in a low voice, only the moon could hear, Nwakaego, since you have chosen to be my sorrow, may you never know peace. May you never taste rest. May your life be full of fire. As you have burned mine, may you suffer without knowing why. And may your hands cause you pain, just as they have caused me pain. Her voice cracked. May the world fear you, and yet run from you, until you beg the spirits for peace. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She only stood up, dusted her wrapper, and entered the hut. From that day, the ghost lived in the wind. The next day was downed with thick grey clouds. The village air felt heavy, like something unseen had settled over Umudike. Birds didn't chirp as loudly, and even the goats seemed unsure where to bleat. In Mama Nwakego's compound, the tension hung thick as ogbono soup. Nwakaego sat outside on a low wooden stool, face hard and jaw clenched, her eyes darting like a hawk. Her mother stood a feet away from her, her wrapper tied high as she swept the compound with slow, careful strokes. "Why are you sweeping there?" Nwakaego barked suddenly. Mama Nwakaego paused. "It's where the breezes carries the dust." "Nwakaego, I'm only trying to keep..." "I said don't sweep there. That's where I sit." The older woman looked at the bare earth, confused. "But you are not sitting there now." Before the sentence could finish, Nwakaego sprang up, snatched the broom from her mother's hand and struck her across the shoulder. A gasp escaped Mama Nwakego's lips, not from the pain, but from the shock. Her own daughter, her only child, had just lifted a hand against her. "Nwakaego," she whispered, "you beat me?" The girl didn't answer. She stood, panting, the broom still in her hands, chest rising and falling like someone possessed. From across the fence, Mamude's mother halted mid-pound. A hen quacked and flew off. Footsteps paused. Someone dropped basket of mangoes. The silence of the village had just broken into the worst way. "You raised your hand at your mother." It was old Nana walking by with his walking stick. Nwakaego turned to him with fire in her eyes. "You should stop provoking me." The old man shook his head slowly. "There is something strange in the air. This is not ordinary." Mama Nwakeego fell to her knees, not out of pain, but out of deep shaking sorrow. "God of our ancestors, what have I done wrong? What spirit has taken my child from me?" Nwakaego didn't flinch. She turned and stormed into the hut, letting the curtains slap shut behind her. That evening, she didn't eat. She didn't speak. She sat in the dark, watching the flickering flame of a palm oil lamp Inside, her mother applied shea butter to her bruised shoulders and whispered prayers to the walls. Whatever this is, let it pass. Let it pass. Let my daughter return to me. But the prayers floated into the air like smoke, soft, lost, and unheard. The next morning, Mami Joma passed by and greeted Nwakaego loudly. "My beautiful daughter, how are you this morning?" "I'm fine, Mami Joma," she said with a smirk, chewing a stalk of sugarcane. Mama Nwakaego, sitting quietly beside the cooking fire, watched the exchange. Her heart sank further. Something was wrong deeply. From that day forward, the first strike became the first of many. The insults grew sharper. The beatings became more frequent. She slapped her mother when soup was too hot. She kicked her when her clothes were not washed. She screamed at her in the market for being too slow and too old. The villagers began to whisper, "That girl is cursed. No, she is the curse. She must have eaten something forbidden. Or maybe her mother offended the gods." Still, Mama Nwakaego bore it all, quietly, with trembling hands and tear-stained eyes. She tried talking to the priest. She tried fasting. She tried beating a drum at the shrine. Nothing worked. Then one night, she wrote a note with shaking hands, folded it into her Bible, and lay down on her mat. By morning, Mama Nwakaego was cold. Her eyes were closed. Her lips were pale. She had died in silence, alone, in the home of the one who once loved her more than the world. And in the silence that followed her passing, the curse began to grow. The morning Mama Nwakego's lifeless body was found, a thick fog blanketed Umudike, as if the heavens themselves mourned. One of her neighbors had come to ask for a bunch of scent leaf for the date soup, only to find her lying cold, her palms open as though she's still waiting for her daughter's hand. Screams broke out. "Hey! Come and see, oh, Nwakego's mother is gone." The villagers rushed in, men tying wrappers, women leaving pots on fire. Words traveled like bushfire on dry harmattan grass. Nwakaego sat still, not crying, not trembling, just blinking. "So she's finally dead," she muttered. Mamude gasped. "Chineke, this girl, you're not ordinary." "Did you not hear what she just said?" Another voice cried. The village square was filled by the afternoon. Elders gathered, women wailed, children peeped from behind the hut. But Nwakaego did not shed a tear. That evening, under the big Udala tree, where meetings were held, Chief Okeke called her. She walked in, wrapper tied carelessly, head raised, eyes unflinching. "Nwakaego," he said, "your mother is gone, and yet your eyes hold no sorrow. Do you understand what has happened?" "I do," she said flatly. She was old. People die. A sharp murmur passed through the circle of elders like a gust of wind. Another elder, Pa Ofo, leaned forward. "We all know how she died, Nwakaego. We know what your hands have done over the years. And we also know the last thing your mother said before her voice left this world." She said nothing. "Are you not afraid?" asked the priest of the shrine. The words of a mother holds weight, especially if they fall in anger. Still, she stood proud. "She cursed me, then let the curse come." One of the elders, woman, gasped. "You must be mad," another shouted. Pawokosha said softly, "She is actually cursed." And so the curse began to move like a shadow. quiet yet fierce. Nwakaego married a wealthy cocoa trader named Obinna from the neighboring village of Ndiaku. At first, she behaved well. She wore her hair tied neatly, smiled politely, and cooked with grace. But by the second moon, she began to yell. By the third moonfall, she had broken a chair over Obinna's head. By the fourth moonfall, she locked him outside all night and poured his palm wine into the pit latrine. Obinna's mother came to speak sense into her. Nwakaego chased her out with a pestle. "He's my husband, not yours," she roared. The villagers called her Wanyike, the woman on fire. Men crossed the road when she passed. Women stopped sending their children to play near her gate. Obinna aged like a banana forgotten under the sun. Finally, he did what no man in his family had done in 3 generations. He married another wife, Amarachi. Amarachi arrived on a soft Monday morning, just before the rains. She was slim, quiet, with skin color of a roasted groundnut and a voice as smooth as freshly tapped palm wine. Obinna had married her in secret, paying her bride price in the next village away from Nwakaego's wrathful eyes.